Finally, since it is very much autumn now, I thought it would only be right to do another baking video. I feel like baking is quite an autumnal thing, it's quite cozy, you get to use a lot of cinnamon. So today I have decided to do some apple crumble cupcakes. Some apple crumble. For the cupcake mixture, you will need 2 eggs, 230 grams of plain flour, 155 grams of sugar, 125 grams of butter unsalted at room temperature, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, and for the apple mixture, which we will be adding to the cupcake mixture, you will obviously need apples. Once you have successfully measured out all your ingredients, the first thing that you are going to need to do is make your apple mixture. For this, you need to take your apples and you need to peel them, core them, and chop them into little squares. Once you have your apple squares, you are going to want to put them into a large saucepan and cover them in water and leave them to simmer. You're going to want to leave them to simmer in the saucepan for about 5 to 7 minutes until the apples are much softer. You can also add a tablespoon of golden caster sugar just to give it a little bit more sweetness. Personally, I've used 2 cooking apples and 1 Golden Delicious just to give it a little bit of sweetness, but it really doesn't matter what apples you use. You can even go and pick your own. First thing you want to do is to cream together your butter and your caster sugar. So I'm going to pop that in the KitchenAid, which does all the hard work for me. And then I'm going to put the sugar in, and I'm going to beat that until it is light and fluffy. Just make sure it's all off the sides and mixed in properly. Next, you want to add your eggs and then your vanilla extract until everything is combined. To do is to add all your dry ingredients, so starting with your plain flour, then your baking powder, your cinnamon, and the salt, and give it a big old mix up. Make sure all the ingredients are in the mixture. Take your bowl off of the mixer, and this is where you're going to want to incorporate your apple mixture into your cupcake mixture, but we don't want to mix it in the KitchenAid because the apple will go all mushy, and we want it to kind of stay a little bit more whole. You don't have to add all of your apple, you can kind of play it by ear, but also it depends how appley you actually want it. So I'm going to add about 2/3 at the moment. Mix that in and see what it's like. I feel like we can add a teeny bit more, and then with any apple that you've got left over, you can use it for decoration or turn it into an apple puree. It's totally up to you. Before you spoon your mixture into your cupcake cases, be sure to preheat your oven to 170 degrees Celsius. I feel like this is perfect. So now all you have to do is grab your cupcake tin and your preferred cupcake cases. I've decided to use these really cute gold cupcake cases, so I'm just going to carry on popping them in the tray. Okay, now for the messy bit of trying to spoon the mixture evenly into each cupcake case. Now you're going to want to put your cupcakes in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Just making sure that a skewer comes out completely clean and they are slightly golden on the top. Whilst your cupcakes are in the oven, you're going to want to make some crumble topping, which is mostly for decoration, but also you can't have apple crumble cupcakes without some crumble. You will need 75 grams of golden caster sugar, 100 grams of slightly salted chilled butter, 140 grams of self-raising flour, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So we are going to put the chilled butter into a big old bowl. Maybe we'll spoon it in. There we go. And I'm also going to add the flour, the cinnamon, and a little bit of the vanilla extract. And you're gonna have to get a bit messy because you're gonna have to use your hands to combine everything together to form little bits of kind of breadcrumbs, I guess. That's the kind of texture you're going for. It's been a while since I've used my hands in baking because I have a KitchenAid. This is so disgusting. So all the ingredients should come together and look something like this. And you want to pour in your golden caster sugar and then just mix it in with a spoon, so you don't need to use your hands for this bit. Yay! In order for your crumble to go a little bit golden and to be cooked slightly, I am going to pop it out on a tray just lined with baking paper, and I'm gonna pop it in the oven for around 5 to 10 minutes, but you just have to keep checking it depending on how much you've cooked. You don't want it to burn, but you want it to be nice and golden. Like making an apple pie without putting it on top of a pie. To be honest, my favourite part of an apple crumble was always the crumble. For the brown sugar buttercream icing, you will need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 110 grams of soft brown sugar, 250 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature, 400 grams of icing sugar. Lastly, you will need a little bit of whole milk. I'm gonna say around 2 tablespoons, but it completely depends on how you want your texture of your buttercream. The more you add, the more loose it is. The less you add, the more thick it is. So it's completely up to you. The trick with butter icing, which I say every time, is you have to beat the butter for a really long time. And in this case, we have to beat it with the brown sugar. So I'm gonna add the butter first. I'm also going to add the brown sugar at this point, the cinnamon, and the vanilla extract. And you wanna beat this for, I would say, around 5 to 7 minutes until it all looks very light and fluffy. I'm just gonna make sure everything is mixing as it should be. And back to whizzing. Mixing. Once your butter is super light, fluffy and creamy, you want to add your icing sugar. You're gonna wanna do this a little bit at a time and start on a very slow speed, or as I always say, you will end up in a cloud of icing sugar. Now you are going to want to add some milk until you feel that it is the right consistency. You don't want it to be too runny, or you'll find that piping on top of your cupcakes is a little bit difficult, but you do want it to be a bit easier than it would be if you just had this. So I'm going to start with 1 tablespoon and then see how we go. I'm going to add a little bit more. I think it only needs another half a tablespoon. One last check around the sides. And the icing is done. Always takes longer than I think it's going to take to do icing, but if you want it to taste good, you've got to put the time in. Don't leave any on your KitchenAid. I am happy with that. So let's get that off. Once your cakes and your crumble have completely cooled, you don't want any of this to be even the slightest bit warm, because the butter icing doesn't bode well with heat. Everything will melt and it will still taste great but not look as pretty. So you've got to let them cool down, but once they have, it's time to decorate. You know I love my trusty piping bag, so I've gone for a star nozzle, which is a 10 Thala nozzle, just in case any of you are wondering. And I'm using a medium-sized piping bag because I don't have any large ones at the moment, but a large would probably be better. And I'm going to spoon my buttercream into my piping bag. Push the icing down and twist the bag. So you can hold it like this in one hand and you can move it around the top of the cupcake with the other hand. So I'm going to place that down here for now. That's ready to go. In order for the crumble to sit neatly on top of the cupcake, I'm going to do a small smearing of icing on top. And then I'm going to pop the crumble on top and then pipe the icing on top of that. I feel like if you wanted to, you could leave it like this, but I quite want to pipe on top just because I think it might look quite pretty. I feel like these are the perfect cupcakes for this time of year. We're about to start getting out the pumpkin recipes as well, but apple crumble, you really can't go wrong. Ta-da! Your 12 apple crumble cupcakes are finally ready to eat. I think they look quite impressive. You could probably share these with someone else as they're quite mammoth, but they look so delicious. I'm really happy with how they turned out. If you decide that you want to recreate this recipe, then make sure to tweet me or Instagram me using the hashtag #CrumbleCupcakes so that I can see how delicious yours look. If you want to see more recipes, then leave some suggestions in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon. Probably try it, shouldn't I? It's not a baking video unless you try your own cake. You guys could think, maybe they're rubbish. How would we ever know she didn't try it? Don't worry, I got you. Oh my God, how am I gonna do this? Oh my God. That is really good. I feel like these are some of the best cupcakes I've ever made. Okay, you're just now watching me eat cake. I'll put it down.